The Powered Paragliding Show, brought to you in conjunction with Paramotor Magazine, with your hosts, Michael Purdy, Jeff Goin, and Paul Anthem.
Let's fly away!
Welcome to the Powered Paragliding Show. I'm Michael Purdy. I'm here with Jeff Goin and Paul Anthem. Hi, guys.
Greetings and salutations.
Hello from Dayton, Ohio.
We've got a fun show for you today. We're going to talk about Jeff's big project. We'll get back to that in just 1 second. And Paul's going to talk about why some people quit. It's hard for us to believe that will actually happen. But Jeff Goin, as everyone knows, I think, is pretty much the godfather of our sport. What has he done for us? Well, let's see. He started the US PPA. He wrote the PPG Bible. He produced Risk and Reward, which is like the video you have to learn and train. And but what I was thinking is, Jeff, what have you done for us lately?
Well, first I have to clarify an important thing. Phil Russman was the genius and producer of Risk and Reward. I wrote the original script, but Phil Russman is what made that such a great tool. But my latest thing is something I've wanted for a long time. It's a high-end video on ground handling. It's a series, and I know we've talked about it before, so I won't go into the details of all of them, but it's 4 videos. 1's advanced ground handling, 2 advanced launching, 3 in-flight precision, 4 advanced landing techniques. But the big deal is that I have now finished video number 1, advanced ground handling.
That is a big deal. You've been working on this for how long?
It's I started the first shots in 2008. I think the fall or late summer of 2008. So
wow.
It's taken me, I shouldn't say it's taken me. I've gone all over the world and shot various scenes from it, but I've got kind of a cool ending where I've learned so much from Phil Russman. I credit him. Anyway, at the ending, taking Phil's cue, I've got some stuff going on while the credits are rolling. One of them is Australia's Richard Shelton, who is playing guitar, but other stuff is going on at that point. And then he has kind of a funny ending. And I'm not going to say any more details, so you'll just have to see the video.
Good. So tell us what this thing's about, though, really. I always tell people when I'm teaching them that you need to practice your ground handling, and Jeff Goin still does.
Well, I have a funny piece from Bill Heener, who is probably the best ground handler.
Well, Michael made a good point that even experienced flyers always practice ground handling.
Yeah, there's so much you can learn. You just play with the wing. A lot of things that become apparent on the ground are a lot better learned on the ground. Like, for example, if you have a reflex wing, how does it behave when you use the brakes? Here is a great test. I know this is a specific, but if you have a reflex wing, put the trimmers all the way out. Let the wing get a little bit past you. So we all know how reflex wings, you can pull on the A's and the wing will fly a little bit past you and it just kind of comes down. It doesn't really collapse. But then try pulling the brakes and see what happens. The wing folds up like a cheap suit. It's just something to know about, to see why it is the manufacturer says, hey, if you've got the trims all the way out, it's better to use the tip steering. Do this test a couple times or watch the video where I have Bill Heener demonstrating this. In fact, when I need to see a collapse, that's how we do it. You want to see a collapse without having to use the A's, put the trimmers fast on a reflex wing, get the wing to overfly you just a little bit, pull some brake, down she comes. It's cool.
So it's not just a matter of steering with the tips because it's a convenience, is what you're saying.
Right. And all the manufacturers of these wings recommend, and by the way, if you're under load and the wing is not allowed to come forward, this is not a problem. So I know I'm going to hear about it. Oh, you said reflex wings are dangerous and collapse. No, that's not what I said. What I said is the manufacturers recommend using tip steering, and this is the biggest reason. Because under certain conditions, if you get lightly loaded and you let the wing get a little bit forward and use the brakes, yeah, you're pretty likely to get a partial collapse. So, and this is a good way to tell it. But that is just scratching the surface of what this video goes into. It starts off with a bunch of different ways just to hold on. It also covers, and I know a lot of people think this is kind of a silly thing, kiting without a harness, kiting with the risers only. Don't you guys do that?
I do that.
No,
I teach my students that as well.
I think
Go ahead, Paul.
because it's very valuable, and you're going to need to know that skill all the time.
It's so useful in little ways, but there's a lot of nuance to it that I think a lot of people don't realize because they just don't really need to. So the idea is you get this video after you've learned the basics. You've gone through training, you've been able to launch and land and basically kite the wing. You know to step left and brake when the wing goes to one side, etc. You know how to dampen it. But now, what's next? I go over all these different holds. I go over how do you bring the wing down in a strong wind? What's an emergency? What are several emergency ways to depower it? And I learned a lot from producing this video, just going out and seeing different skilled kiters and pilots doing these things. Like, oh, cool. Bill Heener showed me one I'd never even heard of. And yet, it's apparently a relatively common technique among free flyers.
Can you describe it?
Can you expound on that?
I suppose it wouldn't be fair to say just watch the video, would it? So, well, it really is kind of difficult without the visual. But the idea is that you're getting lifted, you reach way back up on the D risers, pull them all the way down, and once the carnage has stopped, and you're standing there with the D risers pulled, you put both D risers in one hand and pull them way back on your body. And then with your other arm, let's say you're holding the D risers in your right arm. You're pulling them right back, way back on your right side. You take your left arm up over your head, but forward of your head, down around the right side of the risers and all the way around, and then grab them all in your hand. So you've got all the risers in your hand, but notice the D riser is still pulled. So now you can start bundling the wing up, hand over hand, and that D riser is continuing to keep it depowered. That's just one of many techniques that makes this a really cool project both for me, and I think it'll make a really great tool for pilots who want to go to the next level.
All right, well, Paul and I both have more questions, so let's end up this segment, and we're going to continue on in a segment right after. So you're listening to the Powered Paragliding Show. I'm Michael Purdy with Jeff Goin.
Closing time. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end.